Hi, you're welcome to this IELTS tutorial recorded by my humble self, Joseph I. Omosimwa, popularly known as Joe Philip, or professionally known as Joe Philip. Sorry, please do ignore the video and then listen to what I am going to show you. So basically, this video is about the IELTS tutorial. Now I'm making this video as a recorded course. So when you get access to this, you would be able to go over it over and over and over and over again. So basically today we'll be introducing what the IELTS is. We would simply be introducing what the IELTS is. And what is the IELTS test? We'll look at what the IELTS test is and why test takers find the test difficult and what can be done about that. Sorry, I didn't add that here. And what to do. So basically that's what we'll be looking at today for the sake of this test. I guess you guys are seeing my screen. So basically, now there are two things that we'll be looking at. So this video should not be more than 15 minutes. If this video is more than 15 minutes, then I am truly sorry. So let's quickly get into the business of the day. Now, to properly introduce myself and why you should listen to me, I, Joseph Omosimwa or Joe Philip, have been an IELTS teacher since the year an IELTS instructor since the year 2018. Now, when I say the year 2018, that has not been when I started the test. That is basically when I started doing it professionally. That's not the first time I've taken people on the test or I have heard about the test or done anything about the test. That's not the first time. I have an English background, which is I studied English in the tertiary institutions. Now, so basically, I have been taking this test and I've had hundreds of results, positive results. So that is why I think you should listen to me. I have positive results in this and I've been in this industry for quite a number of years, even though I know many people will say 4 years is still too small, but then 4 years is enough for me to have had hundreds of students who came out of this test successfully with good grades. 4 years is enough for that. 4 years is just enough to have achieved that. So let's quickly move on now to the business of the day. Now we said, what is IELTS? The IELTS test is short for the International English Language Testing System. Now it is a proficiency test that checks the level to which a test taker can use a specific language. In this case, English language. Let's not say specific, let's simply put it as English language because the IELTS checks English. There's a proficiency test for French. There's a proficiency test for other languages. There are proficiency tests for other languages. Now, just like every other linguistic proficiency test, the IELTS test checks the student's usage of the 4 major language skills. Now, these skills could be divided into 2, which we have the receptive skills, which include the listening and the reading, and the productive skills, which include the speaking and the writing. But in this case, we have no business with the receptive and productive. Rather, we are looking at the individual components of those basic skills. So basically, in this test, you should be looking at the listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Now, this comes in no particular order. So in this test, basic things you need to pay attention to are what we are going to align during the course of this video series. So like I said earlier, this is just the part 1, and then we should not expect it to be as long as the others. I'm not going to teach you anything here. I'm simply going to show you why people have this and what they need to do. So let's quickly move on away from the definition of what the IELTS test is. So basically, they said, why do test takers find the test difficult and what they should do? The first thing, many people have this mindset that because English is not their native language, they shouldn't have much to worry about when it comes to passing, when it comes to speaking or using English. I, for one, have that problem. Now, basically, this is a mindset issue. So you would have to what you need to do about this is basically to have a change in your mindset, have a rethink or reframe your mindset. Because I once read in a book that until the results are changed inwardly, they cannot be changed outwardly. That is to say, if you want to grow an apple tree, you can't plant a mango seed and expect to get an apple tree. The inward here is what you have underground. So you have to have the roots of an apple tree to be able to grow an apple tree, or the seed of an apple tree to be able to grow an apple tree, and not the other way around. So basically, there has to be a mindset shift here for there to be a difference here, for the test to become a lot more easier. There has to be a mindset shift. Then the next thing they said, because of its nature or design. So this is where we have other components. Because of its nature and design. What do we mean by its nature and design? The IELTS test is presented in such a way that it's meant to make it look difficult to the test taker. So let's quickly look at this. Now they said I wrote here the length of the listening test. The listening test, which is one component of this test, the length of the listening test is usually a little over 30 minutes. And now there is this difficulty for non-native speakers to be able to sustain their concentration or attention for more than 30 minutes in a language, for more than 30 minutes at a stretch in a language which is not their native language. Okay, I for one am a Nigerian, and we have Igbo, Yoruba, and Hausa, different ethnic groups and different languages. Now, for instance, let's say I'm from one of this Igbo extraction. For instance, I'm not from there though, but using an example. Now, let's say I'm from one of these extractions and then I happen to be taking, or I am taking the IELTS test. Now I have 30 minutes. If my mind is not configured in such a way to sustain this attention for the length of this test, there's going to be a distraction. Now you see that mindset also comes to play again at this point. Your mindset comes to play again at this point. That is one. Then again, the next one they said speakers, the speed of speakers in the listening module. Now this contributes also to why many students fail the listening part of the test. They are too fast. They are usually too fast. The speakers are usually too fast for some students to quickly comprehend. Some people are slow at comprehending things when it comes to the listening module. Now, what could be done about this? First, you just have to know that you will definitely not understand 100% of everything that is being said. Have that at the back of your mind. Understand that you will not grab 100% of what is being said. When you realize that this is normal, then you would not have a problem. So now basically, just make sure you warm up your listening skill. In the course of this, we are going to discuss about how to warm up your listening skills, basically. Then the next one, they said the inability to generate good ideas. This happens in the speaking and also in the writing. This happens in the speaking and also in the writing. In the writing, a lot of students have this issue that, oh, I cannot generate a good idea. That is why I am unable to write. Now, there is one thing you need to note. There is one thing you need to note. And that is the fact that in the IELTS test, no one is going to check the originality or the interestingness, let me use that word, or the interestingness of your ideas. I said the originality and I also said the interestingness. What do I mean by that? Now, they will not check, nobody will check whether your idea that you've addressed is original or you copied it from somewhere. And then nobody is bothered about whether it is interesting or not. What you are simply required is how clearly and accurately you were able to express yourself. That is what is clearly required. That is the only thing that the IELTS examiners require of you. That is the only thing that the IELTS examiner requires of you. Then the other one, another thing you said, not enough time to round up. Now, over the years, all my students, many of them, let me not say all of them, many of them have always complained that, oh, when I was at this point, they now said the test is over. When I was at this point, the test is over. Now, one thing you need to know is to know that the IELTS test follows the same format. And following the same format here is a big plus. Is a big plus because you would have a long time to have spent on each part during your practice. Now, in the course of your writing, in the course of your taking the exam, maybe speaking, writing, reading, or listening, you would have practiced before you even write the exam. You would have practiced with a lot of materials. Now, this is where you get used to this. It will always come in one format, in the same format that it has always come. It would always come in the same format that it has always come. So you simply need to pay attention to this format. Now, the writing, for instance, would always come in the opinion questions or the non-opinion questions. Or it would have, these are the two types of questions that it usually comes with. And these questions would be divided into either one of, do you agree or disagree? To what extent do you agree or disagree? Discuss both views and give your opinion. Advantages and disadvantages. Double direct question. Cause, problem, and solution. It must come in one of these. It must come in one of these. So always, practice will always help you in this. Now, like I said, we are going to have a lot of practice during this video series and even after, until you write your test, and even after the video series until you write your test. Then the next thing they said is too many difficult words. Too many difficult words. Too many difficult words. Now, this is no one's fault. This is no one's fault, not even the examiner's fault. It's no one's fault. Why did I say it's no one's fault? There would always be words that you're unfamiliar with in a language. There would always be words that you are unfamiliar with in a language. Now, one thing you can do for yourself is to simply understand as many words as possible. Try to know as many words in English as possible, such that these words will not become alien to you when they are used. Another thing you could also do, this works for me, basically, it works for me. Now, I said that one thing you could always do, which is one thing that works for me, is you being able to understand words as they are used in context. So what I said earlier was that this works for me, because basically what I'm now trying to tell you is to try to understand words as they are being used in context. Now, you would say you do not have that time to understand these words as they are being used in context. You would argue that you do not have this time. Well, yes, of a truth, you do not have this time. But then, during your practice, you would have come across a lot of words and how to use them in context, or how to understand their usage in context. Then next, they said nerves. The next thing we have here is nerves. What do we mean by nerves? Tension. Tension is what we mean by nerves. Now, a lot of people already have this mindset that, oh, I may not be able to pass this exam. And then what we call exam fever would set in. And that becomes a problem. So that is where nerves sets in. Then a solution to this is, if you prepare properly, you will not have this problem. If you prepare properly, but if you book the test before you now start preparing, that is where there might be some problems. Then another thing we have here is ego. Ego, pride. A lot of candidates, right? Like I said earlier, I've come across hundreds of candidates, hundreds of them. I have lost count actually. Now, a lot of candidates actually have this issue. When you tell them, when grading their work, and you tell them that, okay, this is the next thing is you try to justify why you feel it. Rather than just taking the correction and make time, you try to justify why they feel it. So that is one thing. Then lastly, there is this already existing mindset that the IELTS test is too hard. There is this already existing mindset that the IELTS test is too hard. Remember at the beginning of this part, I mentioned that mindset is one of the basic things that you would need to change in the course of your preparation for this test. You need to work on your mindset. It is very important to work on your mindset. You have to do away with the mindset that, oh, this exam is too difficult, this exam is too difficult, will I be able to pass it? No. Face the exam like, okay, the English would say, take the bull by the horn. Simply face the exam like your life depends on it. With the mindset like, okay, if I fail this exam, they will kill me. So definitely you have to pass it. You have no choice than to pass the exam. If you have this kind of mindset, then what else are you looking for? It won't be difficult. So I still remain Joseph Ayomosimwa or Joe Philip. We'll see you again in the next video.